You want to address some staff changes?
Yeah,
that might be coming?
that's a great place to start. Yeah. I think obviously we've had a few staff changes, and for really, the good thing is when you go win, you have success, there's going to be opportunities for people on your staff. And so, you look at Johnny Brewer, he and I have been together for 11 years straight. And for him to get an opportunity to go coordinate, run the offense, for Manny at Duke, which is someone we know, and he'll do a great job there. For Manny, we got to play him, so that's not going to be fun. But that'll be kind of like that old Spider-Man meme, people looking at each other. But he's just Johnny's as fine of an assistant coach as I've ever had a chance to work with. He's been awesome for me for the last decade plus. It was kind of weird because last Saturday we had our first practice since the game, and I think that was the first practice since I hit my 30s that I had been in a practice that Johnny Brewer and I weren't on the same staff. That's a long time. So, but really happy for him. We hate to lose him, but he's going to do great, and that's what you want if you're winning and your program's being successful. You want when guys leave your program, they leave because they're being successful and they're getting great opportunities to further themselves. With regards to Keenan Hall, he decided, he got an opportunity to be an associate head coach at Baylor. I think that's something that's really important to him and his goals to one day be a head coach. He did a phenomenal job with us here. We're grateful to him, and it ended up being an opportunity that was really good for him. So he took that one. We did have several coaches in the hunt for head opportunities, and at this point, none of them have landed one. But again, I think that's just a testament to our team, to our players, that our coaches are getting those kind of opportunities. With regards to filling those roles, have an idea. I know what we're going to do at running back, but we're not ready to do that yet and announce that. I can tell you that DEriq King is going to be our new quarterbacks coach. So he's going to coach them through the bowl, but he's also going to actually become the official quarterbacks coach, replacing Coach Brewer as we move forward. And then down the line, we'll probably have a few more announcements on staff changes once we decide how to fill that running back spot officially, and some other things that may move around. But I think that probably covers the most of it, but you may have some questions about it.
Yeah, what did you see in DEriq? I mean,
Yep.
You've been around him a while too now, that you felt like he was ready to take on this challenge.
Yeah, I think DEriq's he's made for it. He's really made a huge impact. Our entire staff, I'm biased to him. A couple of us who coached him a few years ago know him, but the coaches on defense and the coaches that didn't know him, they were just really impressed with how he came in this year in such a short amount of time, and just his presence, how he relates to the players. He's professional. There's a lot of growth and development still to happen there for him, but I think it's going to happen fast. I think he has a high ceiling and an elite, bright future. And, I think we're just fortunate to get to have him on the front end of that. I think the thing that makes sense for us, too, he relates really well with the players. I think he'll be an excellent recruiter. I think, he's from the state of Texas, playing down in Manville, so he's got a great presence in Houston, but he's really got a great presence throughout the state. And he's played quarterback in our offense in the last couple of years. So, if I'm a kid coming to play quarterback at SMU, or if I'm on our roster, I'm like, man, I get to get coached by a guy who just did it at a high level, both at Houston and Miami in college, played in the NFL for a minute, played in the XFL. He's ran this offense, this specific one. So the plays we're running, what we call them, like he's done those things. So I just think that's from a transition standpoint, that fits and makes a lot of sense. And so I just think he's going to do a really good job.
With that, obviously there's the, being a GA, maybe a quality control coach, there's that process, but is there a benefit to a guy that's not that far removed from doing it on the field?
Yeah, there is. There's always plus and minuses, right? Like there'll be a learning curve to coaching a quarterback versus playing quarterback. He'll do fine with that. Like I said, the way you relate to guys, I think, is important. And there's a lot of guys who would want to be coached by a guy who's been in that role recently. And, a lot of the guys probably he'll be recruiting grew up watching him, which is weird, but it'll also be good for him. But yeah, and there's no normal path. Usually you go to GA and maybe you're an analyst and all that, and sometimes you skip steps. And we got some really good analysts and GAs that are qualified to do a lot of things, but sometimes it's about fit and timing. And I think just the fit, the timing, talking to our staff specifically on offense, they all thought it made sense from the transition standpoint. And I think he'll do really well.
And then just with that, Casey said he wasn't sure. Do you know who will then move to the booth and kind of be the eyes up there?
Long term, we'll talk about that, once we get everything settled for next year. I think for the bowl game, Casey will probably go up. He was up last year. We kind of brought him down this year and left Johnny up. So I think it makes a lot of sense to leave Coach Likens and to leave Coach Justice down. DEriq will stay down. It'll help him be able to talk to Kevin in real time in the game. But I think, Coach Woods will probably be in the booth for the bowl game.
What do you see out of Boston College?
Yeah, offensively, really big physical offensive line. They love to run the ball. They love to run the ball and then throw shots deep. So I think the challenge is, and they run it well enough, like they gain 2, 3, 4 yards. They very rarely get stopped for no gain or go backwards. So it's hard to get negative plays and get them off schedule. Their quarterback transferred from Central Florida. Remember him coming out of high school, I believe, out of South Georgia. I mean, he's really electric. He's got a big arm. He can make throws. But, boy, he scares you running the football. Not only on design runs, just dropping back and creating. So that's the concern for our defense. For us offensively, Coach Hafley, head coach, is a defensive guy by trade, really good history. They're really sound. They don't do a lot, but they do it well. They're physical. They run to the ball. They hit. So it's like all bowl games. It's going to come down to who's excited to play and who's excited to be there, who's excited to play in the cold, all that kind of stuff. And, when you're now 3-4 weeks removed from the season, it almost kind of takes on a life of its own. It's kind of detached from the season. It's not next season yet. And so it's kind of a one-game standalone deal. And I think our guys, at least in the first few days of prep, have responded like they'll be excited to play.
With your defensive line, what you saw against Tulane in the championship game, where did you see the greatest growth from the opener against La Tech to that game?
We obviously developed a lot of depth throughout the season. You look at that game, guys like Isaiah Smith, we call him Turbo, kind of went off in that game. I think Cam Robertson came on as the year went along. So I think some of the depth is where you really saw Jalen Samuels. Like the main guys started the season, Elijah Roberts, Elijah Chapman, Jordan Miller, Nelson Paul, like they were steady throughout the year. But I think the depth that we were able to play with and the amount of bodies that Coach Tibbs and Coach Simons were able to throw at people throughout the game, throughout the season, keep them fresh, really paid off in that last game. We stopped the run, and then when we do that, you get them in obvious passing situations. We were able to get 7 sacks. But that's the big, you look at the Oklahoma game week 2, I think our D-line, the first 20, 30 plays of that game looked as good as they did all year. We really got after them. So that didn't change, but what changed was just the depth and the amount of guys we could put in there and not have a drop-off.
I know the big reason you guys are so confident in Kevin is talking about his consistency. He's the same person every day, but with these couple of days of prep and since the championship game, do you notice him being any more confident? Do you know that, hey, just my second career start's gonna be a bowl game and it's just another game for me?
I don't notice it, but it's human nature. He has to feel a little bit better, right? He actually went out, had his first start in a championship game, won, played pretty well. There's still a lot of areas to improve. It's the same thing like we said at Preston at the beginning of the year. He's going to get better and better each week, and I felt like he did that. You look at as the season went along, by the end of the year before he got hurt, he was playing at a really, really high level. I think you look at Kevin, his turnovers really weren't, like the first play of the game is not his fault. The 2 interceptions, that we got to not do that in the red zone, but it wasn't like he was just throwing jump balls up into triple coverage. He was aggressive, he was confident, he made a lot of plays. I think there's a lot of area for him to grow and improve, and I think he'll make those steps in game 2. But I think we also got to understand the process. The more and more he gets to take snaps and play, that he's going to get better and better too. So, but it has to help his confidence just to go out and do it the way he did.
You mentioned the bowl game being a standalone, but for this group to win that 12th game, for just the second time in program history, to keep this win streak going, finish strong, does it maybe mean a little bit more than some bowl games might? And a little more urgency to win, maybe?
Yeah, I think from the standpoint of, look, if we don't win the game, I don't think it diminishes what this team accomplished, and I don't think it necessarily negatively impacts next year. But we do have a lot to play for. We have a chance to win a 12th game. It's hard to do any year. It's only been done here once before, so that would be really cool to tie that mark. We have a chance to go beat a future conference opponent who we're actually going to play next year. But I think we're playing an ACC team. That's where we're going. I think there's a lot of that that could benefit us going into the offseason. And we get a chance to win a bowl game. You know, we've been able to check off a lot of things this year. It's been a minute since we won a bowl game. And so, you know, there's a lot to play for. Most importantly, though, it's kind of cool. The number one thing, it's the last time this team gets to play together. You know, today's the 20th. The life cycle of this team is 8 days. And then this team will never be the same. You know, the team that won the conference championship in 23. So it's one more chance for them to just go play and have fun together. And bowl games are intended to be rewards. They're intended to be fun. It's a lot more fun when you win, so that's our goal ultimately. But we're going to have fun. We're going to let our guys go play, and hopefully we play well and it goes our way.
I know it was big for you to have Jonathan McGill announce that he's coming back, but what did he bring from a leadership standpoint to this defense, not only on the back end, but just as a whole?
He brought everything we thought he would bring and more. He brought a level of maturity, a level of consistency, just day-to-day, how he approached a practice or workouts or meetings. You know, I think that helped particularly the back end guys, you know, raise their level and go, oh, so, okay, this is what, you know, a captain level or a veteran guy who's played a lot of football, how he carries himself, how he handles himself. He's a super high-end competitor in a good way, though. He competes with his teammates, not against them. And I think just how he did things really elevated the level, for sure, of the whole defense in our team, but definitely the back end, which ultimately spilled over into the whole defensive team. So he made a lot of plays, he played well, but he did bring that element that we really needed, just like we'd hoped he would.
When you mentioned this, you know, the life cycle team being 8 more days, a lot of bowl teams look very different from how the team started
Yeah.
being here between opt-outs, transfer
Yeah.
portal. Does it mean anything to you and what you guys are building here when the team, I mean, obviously there's been injuries, but the bowl team that you're putting out is pretty much the same one you put in these?
I think it says a lot about our kids, the culture of this team, that we're not going to have a bunch of guys opt out and not play. You know, we may have 1 or 2 guys that don't end up playing because of injuries or whatnot. I think it says a lot. The guys want to play. They want to play together. They want to play one more time as this team. And I think it's honestly probably a good example of why they were able to win a championship. You know, same reason that the Sunday after, we didn't really get to enjoy the championship very long, and then we had the bowl announcement. And I think, you know, they were disappointed for like 10 minutes and they moved on. I think those are characteristics of a championship team that we're fortunate this team had. And I think that's why we won. And I think that's why, you know, they're a special group. And like we've said as a staff, we can't take it for granted. You don't always get groups like this. You got to really enjoy it when you have them.
Kind of going off that, what does it mean when Jonathan McGill, Elijah Roberts announce they're coming back?
Yeah.
When Brandon Crossley during the season says, I'm going to not play in order to redshirt and come back.
Yeah. I think it just tells you that we're doing something right from the standpoint of just how we run the program, how our coaches are, how our players interact, the culture here. They enjoy being here at SMU. They enjoy playing football. They enjoy being at SMU. Look, it's the transfer. Guys are going to come and go. You can't overreact to that when it happens. Everybody's not going to be happy. But the majority of the guys, they want to be here. They want to play. If they want to extend it and play longer and they want to do it here, like, just that has to be a positive. And so I just think it means there's certain things we are doing right. Now, winning helps, you know, but I think there's a lot of things we are doing right. One thing I'll say before we go, we will in February, again, like last year, have a final like recap of signing day and do all that kind of stuff. But with today being the early signing period, we did have, I believe, 10 guys sign. Quarterback Tyler Aronson signed. I was making sure I could talk about them all. They've all signed. Tyler Aronson out of Vero Beach, DEriq McFall out of Tyler, Texas. You know, King Large, St. John Bosco there in California. Graham Uter out of Bayside Academy in Alabama. O-lineman Brandon Booker, DeSoto linebacker. Zach Smith, linebacker out of Red Oak. K-Dot, Kadavian Dotson out of Duncanville. Speedy Nettles right here out of Dallas Christian. A-Rod, Alex Rogers out of Cedar Hill, and Jalen Moses out of Newman Smith. So we had those 10 guys did sign today out of the high school. You know, total of 7 guys from Texas, 1 from Alabama, California, Florida. You know, I think the cool thing is those guys from Texas are either pretty much East Texas and the Metroplex for the most part. 3 of them are state champions. Almost all of them made playoff runs. So we feel like we're getting good players. We feel like we're getting winners, which is important. We'll continue to evaluate the whole transfer piece and add pieces there. And who knows if we add some more high school guys in the January period, that's always possible. You know, we'll have the full class, like I said, in February, but just wanted to mention those guys. We will announce most of it on our social media, but we're excited about those guys.